The streets of Ouagadougou were quiet under the orange glow of broken streetlights. Somewhere in the city center, soldiers stood at checkpoints, their rifles slung across tired shoulders. The president was expected to speak at a youth forum the next morning. A routine appearance, nothing unusual. But in the darkness, something dangerous was already unfolding. And in the middle of it all, unnoticed by anyone, was a little girl. Her name was Awa. She had no last name, no birth certificate, no home. Most people didn't even see her anymore. She was just the girl with the dog, always in the background, sweeping dust with her feet, digging through trash cans for leftover rice or torn bread. She had slept behind the big billboard near the Ministry of Culture for almost 2 years. Rain, heat, wind, it didn't matter. The city had become her skin. She was only 12 years old, but she moved like someone older. Her eyes didn't blink fast. Her steps made no sound. And her dog, Zuma, never barked. They were a team. Survivors. Ghosts of the city. That night, Awa wasn't looking for food. She was chasing a feeling. She had seen something strange earlier in the evening. 2 men she didn't recognize walking near the Kuluba Hill, where the president often passed. They looked out of place. Clean shoes, foreign backpacks. One of them wearing sunglasses even though it was almost sunset. They had no reason to be there. She watched them from behind an old taxi. One of them spoke into a phone, but not in French or Moray. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Quiet, director, cold. Then they disappeared into a building under renovation. Nobody used that place. It had no power, no lights, no water. But they went in anyway. Awa waited an hour, then another. Most kids would have walked away. But she stayed. She had learned long ago that the people who looked harmless in the day could be dangerous at night. And the ones who whispered in strange languages often came with trouble. As the moon climbed higher, she finally moved. Barefoot, slow, she crept across the street, Zuma behind her. She crouched low and crawled under a broken fence, slipping through cracks most adults would never see. Inside the abandoned building, everything smelled like rust and rats. But upstairs, on the 3rd floor, there was light. Faint, thin, like someone covering a flashlight with their hand. She followed it. When she reached the top, she paused. The hallway ahead had broken windows. The wind blew dust through it like dry smoke. And then she saw it. A long black case. A rifle. A man attaching a scope. Another adjusting a tripod. Her breath stopped. This wasn't robbery. This was an assassination plan. Awa didn't know much about war. But she knew rifles. She had seen soldiers carrying them. She had once even picked up a broken one from a ditch. But this one? This wasn't for defense. It was for distance. For silence. For killing someone important. And then she heard one of them speak again. In a whisper but clear. He drives past at 7:15. He exits at the corner gate. We take him before the crowd gathers. 7:15. Corner gate. Take him. She didn't need to hear the rest. She already knew who they meant. It was all over the radio. The posters. The banners. President Ibrahim Traoré was going to speak at the National Youth Conference, just a few blocks from here. He always greeted the crowd personally. He never stayed behind bulletproof glass. He trusted his people. But tonight, the people he trusted were not the only ones watching. Awa looked at Zuma. The little dog's ears were up, alert. She had no phone, no parents, no help. But she had eyes. She had speed. She had courage. And somewhere inside her chest a fire had just been lit. She stood up quietly and began to run. Not away from danger, but toward it. Awa ran like she had never run before. Her bare feet slapped the dusty pavement as she darted through the empty streets of Ouagadougou. The city was still sleeping. The moon was slowly giving way to the first pale light of morning, and the air was cool, heavy with silence. But inside Awa's chest, everything was on fire. Time. That was the enemy now. She didn't have a watch, but she could feel it. The sun would rise soon. And then the president would come. And then those men on the 3rd floor would pull the trigger. She could already see it in her mind. His blood on the road, the crowd screaming, the sirens too late. She had to stop it. But how? She was just a girl, homeless, dirty, unseen. She ran past a parked police truck. 2 officers sat drinking tea, half asleep. Awa stopped, panting, and tried to speak, but the words came out tangled. Please, s'il vous plaît. There are men, guns, rooftop, president. One of the officers waved his hand like she was a mosquito. Hey, go away, girl. Always disturbing people. But it's true. They will shoot. The second officer stood and pointed at his baton. Move away before I arrest you. Stop causing problems. Awa backed off, heart pounding. Zuma growled softly beside her. She turned and ran again. No one believed street kids. They saw her and thought of hunger and dirt, not danger and truth. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when she had seen the rifle, heard the plan, smelled the oil on the sniper's gloves. She turned a corner and reached the edge of Place de la Révolution. Banners hung from the street lamps. Burkina Faso's future is young. And soldiers were just beginning to set up barricades. It was almost time. And suddenly, she saw him. Not the president, but Captain Umaru, the tall soldier with the sharp eyes. He had once given Awa a leftover sandwich. She had never forgotten his face. He was the kind who looked at her like a person, not a ghost. She ran to him yelling, Mon Capitaine, please, it's an emergency. He turned, confused. Then he recognized her. Awa, what's wrong? There are 2 men, snipers, on the 3rd floor of the abandoned building near Kuluba. They're planning to kill the president at 7:15. I heard them. I saw the rifle. For a moment he just stared at her. Then he asked softly, seriously, Are you sure? She looked into his eyes. Yes, I swear. Please believe me. He didn't waste another second. He turned to his radio. Unité Bravo, en position rapide. Possible threat, snipers, Kuluba site, building B. Move now. Suddenly everything moved fast. Soldiers ran. Radios crackled. Awa stood shaking, unsure if they would make it in time. Zuma sat beside her, tail still. She had done her part. Now it was up to them. But inside her, doubt crawled. What if they were too late? What if the snipers had already seen the soldiers coming? What if they pulled the trigger early? She turned to Captain Umaru. Please, don't let them kill him. He's the only one who speaks for us. The captain nodded. We'll protect him. You did the right thing, Awa. She nodded, trying not to cry. And somewhere behind her, in the growing light, the city began to wake. The sound of drums echoed from a distance. Youth groups were marching toward the forum site, waving flags, singing. The air was full of hope. But above them, on that rooftop, death was still waiting. And the clock was ticking. The sun was rising. Its golden rays spilled over the rooftops of Ouagadougou, bathing the streets in soft light. The city was awake now, alive with music, footsteps, cheers, and the warm excitement of a special day. Today was the Youth Patriotism Forum. And in just minutes, President Ibrahim Traoré would speak to the nation. But 3 blocks away, on the roof of a quiet, half-collapsed building, 2 killers lay belly-flat behind broken concrete. They were not watching the sunrise. They were watching the street below. One of them, the older one with the scar across his neck, checked the scope again. The rifle was long, cold, and already aimed at the exact point where the president's convoy would stop. The second man adjusted the signal device on his wrist. It was synced to the arrival time, 7:15 sharp. Once he steps out, the scarred man whispered, "You fire. Clean and fast." Below them, the first wave of the convoy was already entering the forum site. Military bikes, black SUVs, and red beret soldiers on alert. Time, 7:11 a.m. Suddenly they heard a metallic clang downstairs. Then footsteps. The younger sniper moved his eye from the scope. "Someone's coming." The older one frowned. "Impossible. This building is empty." They both looked toward the stairs, their fingers inching toward pistols. Then, "Hands up! Drop your weapons!" A dozen soldiers burst through the rooftop entrance like a storm. Red beret elite forces with assault rifles aimed and ready. The snipers panicked. The younger one tried to swing his rifle. Too slow. Captain Umaru's boots slammed into his chest and knocked him down hard. The scarred man reached for a grenade in his coat, but a soldier fired a warning shot just inches from his hand. "Try it," the soldier growled, "and your face is gone." Within seconds, it was over. The snipers were face down, handcuffed, disarmed. The rifle, custom-built, foreign, was taken as evidence. The device on the wrist? A detonator wired to a car parked far too close to the forum entrance. This wasn't just an assassination. It was a full-scale terror operation. And it had all been stopped by a girl with no home and no shoes. Meanwhile, at 7:15 a.m., exactly as planned, President Ibrahim Traoré stepped out of his vehicle. He smiled at the sea of young faces waiting for him. Flags waved, cheers erupted. But he did not know that, just minutes before, he had been standing on the edge of death. Captain Umaru, now back at ground level, stood silently by the side of the stage. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. He looked around for Awa. She was nowhere to be seen. Elsewhere in the city, Awa and her dog Zuma sat quietly on the rooftop of a different building. She hadn't waited for thanks. She didn't need applause or reward. She had seen the soldiers go in. She had heard the arrests over the radio. That was enough. She hugged Zuma tightly, her heart finally calm. "They won't hurt him," she whispered. "Not today." Zuma wagged his tail gently, resting his head on her lap. The sun rose higher, and the city, their city, breathed safely once again. The youth forum ended with loud applause and hopeful chants. President Ibrahim Traoré had delivered a powerful speech, one that moved the crowd, especially the young people who saw him as a symbol of courage and hope. But as he walked back to his convoy, he felt something strange, like a shadow had passed without him seeing it. Captain Umaru approached him, whispering something urgent into his ear. The president's expression changed. He stopped walking. Then he looked up at the sky in silence. "I want to meet her," he said. But Awa was gone. 2 days later, she sat under the same broken street lamp with Zuma. A few kind people had given her bread and water since that morning, but most passed her by. A soldier walked past too, but he stopped suddenly. "Hey, are you the girl who reported the rooftop?" Awa froze. "I don't know what you mean," she muttered, holding Zuma close. The soldier knelt down. "You saved our president. We've been looking for you." She hesitated. "I don't want trouble." "You're not in trouble," he smiled. "The president himself wants to see you." The presidential palace. It was the first time Awa had ever walked through big gates without being chased away. Her feet were bare, her clothes were old, but the guards stood straight and silent, letting her pass. Inside, everything was clean, bright, and silent. Then the doors opened, and there he was, Ibrahim Traoré, tall, calm, strong. But in that moment, he didn't look like a powerful leader. He looked like a father seeing a lost child. "Is it true?" he asked gently. "You saw the snipers before anyone else?" Awa nodded slowly. Traoré walked forward. "You risked your life. You could have been killed. Why?" She looked him in the eyes. "Because I saw your face that day. You smiled at a boy in the crowd like he was your own son. I knew you were good. I couldn't let them take you." The room went silent. Even the bodyguards looked away, their eyes wet. Zuma barked softly and wagged his tail. Traoré knelt down. "What's your name, child?" I don't have one." He paused, then stood up tall. "Then from today, your name is Awa Traoré. You are no longer homeless. You are one of us." He turned to his aides. "She will live here. She will eat with us. She will go to school. And one day, if she chooses, she will lead." The room erupted in quiet applause. Awa's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said she belonged before. Zuma barked again, louder this time. Even he seemed proud. Weeks later, the story of the homeless girl who saved the president spread across Burkina Faso like wildfire. Some called her an angel. Others called her a hero. But Traoré only said one thing: "She is the future of this nation."